Hey guys, and welcome to the next edition of the AdoredTV podcast for the week of February 22nd. And I am Kirk Johnson, and we have Matthew. Go ahead and say
Hi.
hi. And we actually have Aurelian with us. He's the one that transcribes a lot of Adored's
Hi.
videos. Hi. We are going to talk about several articles here. First off, we want to talk about the Navi GPU and some information we got about that. Then we're going to discuss a little bit of the information that leaked about the XE architecture from Intel. We'll go over some of the ASUS 5700 cooling issues. We got some Bethesda information, as well as some 10th gen Intel CPU stuff. And then there's a little bit of a controversy that's brewing about a motherboard at the end that we'll talk about. So let's go ahead and get started with the Navi GPU. And Matthew, you want to start with that?
Okay. So we have this Navi 12 GPU, which has this has been spotted a few times over the past few months. It seemed initially it seemed like a Navi 10 with just HBM2, but it always had like a pretty low clock speed. So initially, what I figured was maybe this would be like a mobile GPU, like a Kaby Lake G sort of deal.
Mm-hmm.
But recently, this was over a week ago. But Komachi found that it has deep learning capabilities,
Mm-hmm.
and on GitHub it has been called Navi DL Ops, or like deep learning operations, and Navi Deep Learning. So
So
maybe
there are
this
two
is like an
variants.
instinct. Yeah. Well, no, I don't think it's two variants. The same name for different names for the same GPU.
Hmm.
So it's got a very low core clock speed. It has HBM2, same amount of compute units as Navi 10, but probably a different die, because Navi 10 probably doesn't have an HBM2. So I think this is probably an instinct. It could be some weird like semi-custom thing. I'm not really sure.
It could be. I mean, with the low clock speed, it could be just an engineering sample that's running at that speed right now.
Yeah, but this is a really low clock speed. This is only like 1.1 gigahertz.
So maybe it's a very wide, maybe a lot of CUs or something.
No, it's only
It says like
40.
40.
No, it's as much as Navi 10. So it's running almost half the speed as a really high-end Navi 10 GPU. But it has HBM2. That's the key point.
Yeah, so maybe it is low power to run in the data center as opposed to being an end user graphics card.
But this lends credence to when this was like a really long time ago. This might be like a year ago now. But David Wang, I think it was David Wang, said that Navi works well with both GDDR6 and HBM2. And this
Yeah.
seems to be proof of that.
Yeah, since they're incorporating, this is one of the first HBMs that we've seen tied to a Navi GPU as well.
This is the only. This is the only. I can't remember the first time when we saw this with HBM2. That was a long time ago. But now we know that it also has this deep learning capability.
And I think that extra bandwidth is definitely going to really feed this deep learning, whether these are extra cores like the RT cores on NVIDIA stuff, or if this is just reusing the existing compute hardware.
I heard that it might have something like tensor cores on it. That's a possibility, I guess. I haven't heard anything that Navi is particularly good at deep learning. So maybe they did add some extra hardware on there to make it actually like better than Vega. It's just surprising to me that there is a Navi, what looks like a Navi Instinct card.
Yeah, because we had been under the assumption that Navi was a split off of Vega, where Vega would continue in the data center for this deep learning stuff, and Navi would become the consumer GPU. So that is a very interesting thing to see them kind of moving back towards the data center, even with Navi.
But is it maybe that this is an RDNA 2?
No, it's Navi 12. If it was RDNA 2, it'd probably say like Navi
20 or something.
22.
20 something. Yeah.
Yeah, for second
But
gen.
that doesn't mean I mean, they could have extra hardware that might be, backported, I guess. Like, who knows? Because Zen 2 got the Taj, prediction branch thing from Zen 3.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then Vega M was more like Polaris. It had like bits and pieces of both Polaris and Vega. So, who knows?
Yeah, this is going to have to be something we'll keep an eye on and just see
Yeah.
where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah. I think that's it for this GPU.
well, let's talk about the other one then. Intel to discuss the XE architecture at GDC, or so the rumor says.
Well, that's it's just a listing. It's just a listing.
Oh, they
on
actually listed
the GDC.
as...
Yeah,
okay.
This isn't a huge deal. But what Intel says, there's a few key phrases that I picked out in this. I put it in this quote in the article.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got it up.
Intel's brand new Z architecture has been teased for a while, scheduled to release later this year. That's what Chris Hook said on Twitter by the end of 2020. This talk will provide a detailed tour of the hardware architecture behind Intel's upcoming GPUs, unveiling the structure behind its building blocks and their performance implications. Could be interesting. This technical talk addresses games and engine developers with an interest in graphics architecture and performance, as well as future-looking graphics algorithms. So they haven't explicitly said what GPUs they're talking about, but this leads me to believe that this is about DG1 and Tiger Lake and not Arctic Sound. I don't believe they will be talking about the ZHP architecture, which is going to be found in Arctic Sound, Ponte Vecchio, and DG2. I think this is ZLP.
Yeah.
So how do you spell this? XE or Z, like Xi Jinping, like the Chinese president, or how do you call it?
It's XE. It's XE.
XE. I have
Yeah.
always had issues. Different people call it differently.
I'm pretty sure it'll
sometimes-
become a Z or a something like that for the pronunciation, just to make it easier to vocalize.
I think Jim does X to the power of E because that's what it looks like, because it looks like an exponent. This branding's not. I mean, it sounds cool, I guess, but when you try to talk about it, it's not very easy.
Looks better when it's printed.
Yeah, it looks good when it's printed. I like that. I like that name. It's very short. The X, listen, the X is amazing. It's such a cool letter.
Well, yeah, it gets a nice little spot right between two fans on all of the CPU coolers and such.
Every single one of these companies has X.
Yeah. I have
GTX, RTX, RX, the X is on the ends of product names. Z.
Didn't Hardware Unboxed made a huge video about this, counting X's in all the products?
Did they?
Fun. Yeah, I think I had fun. I don't know. Maybe
I don't remember that one. That one's probably funny though.
Maybe AMD just needs to rebrand their Radeon Technologies group to have an X in the name, and then their problems will go away.
They have RX and XT.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the group name even.
Oh, it's only RTG.
Yeah.
RXTG.
There you go. Extreme technical group.
Radeon Experience.
Hey, there you
Technology
go.
Group.
Just capitalize. Oh, that. Hey, you could flip and have it EX rather than XE. Yeah, experience.
E to the power of X.
So yeah, this is just a GDC listing. So hopefully this will be. I don't think this will be a live stream thing. If it is, that'd be awesome. Or if someone could somehow like go there and record it, or like get like the slides and everything, or like the gist of what they talk about. This could reveal some pretty interesting stuff.
Well, I'm certainly
gonna
going to keep
an eye
some
on it.
tabs on the GDC. I mean, it's March 16th through the 20th.
Unless it gets canceled.
Where do they host
Yep.
this? San Francisco?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's definitely a little further outside my wheelhouse. If it was in Vegas, I might be able to, but it's pinching tickets for it at this point. That would be the rough spot.
But I think one more thing to add here is that I guess all the community and everybody is excited that Intel is actually getting into this game.
Even
we
if
need
the
a
first
third player.
attempt.
Yeah, I
Even
mean, of
if the
course,
first attempt is not going to be very good.
Yeah.
Arctic Sound's not going to be very good.
Yeah, but it's fine. Just let them start their game and
I think
we'll get
Tiger
there.
Lake could really be good.
I hope so.
I think it'll at least be efficient. I think Intel wouldn't be stupid about that, even though it is on 10 nanometers.
Well,
I don't think it'll flop.
They're going to be fighting AMD on the low end for a while because I don't know if anyone's going to really be able to touch NVIDIA besides AMD for a little bit at this point, you know?
Yeah, I was hoping Tiger Lake would actually really I don't know, kill off like the 150s, 250s, 350s.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like it's going to happen. I don't think Tiger Lake's fast enough to do that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it'll probably be faster than Renoir when it comes to graphics.
Yeah, that's always a good starting point, really.
Yeah.
Especially for their first foray outside of their CPU GPUs.
Now, do we want to talk about the really bad GPU next?
What, DG1?
No.
There's something worse? Oh.
We're going back to AMD.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead. We got the ASUS. Yes.
So
controversy over this one.
Oh yeah, this is really funny. So the short of it is that ASUS has admitted that they don't QA their products. That's basically what they have done, and they don't know it. So they made a statement admitting. Okay, so actually, backstory. Hardware Unboxed, they figured out that that the Strix cooler is literally coming off the board because they didn't screw it on right.
Yeah,
that's basically the problem.
Weren't they putting washers onto those bolts?
Yeah, they did. They found out you could put some washers on to actually get the screws to really mount the cooler to the board, not sag.
Mm-hmm.
This happened after the first issue they found with Navi ASUS GPUs, which was with the Tough series, where it was they couldn't cool the memory, and the memory was getting up to 125 Celsius or 105 Celsius.
Yeah, because the
heat literally
wasn't
outside of the
contacting the memory, right?
Yeah, it was something stupid. No, I think it was making contact with the plate that didn't touch anything. So it wasn't.
They put a plate there, but it wasn't mounted.
It just doesn't. The cooling did not exist. It just doesn't happen.
It's terrible.
So the issue with the Strix, which has been known for a while, is that the cooler sags off. And ASUS says, yes, we have discovered the issue, and the issue is AMD. So they said that AMD's recommended PSI pressure guidelines are too low and that they need to be higher. So they said initial batches of Strix GPUs were built following AMD's guidelines. After receiving user reports regarding temperature issues, this is funny, we performed extended R&D testing to find the optimal PSI range after you made your product.
Hey, they called it extended, so they at least powered it on, right?
Oh my god.
It turns out we're good, guys.
It's just they admit they didn't they didn't test it. Well, they don't realize that's what they've said.
Yeah, they did test it. They turned it on, make sure it didn't burn up under idle or something, right?
Let's say ASUS is exactly correct here, and AMD did recommend that amount. Well, even if AMD's wrong, they should test it to make sure it works.
But I mean, I'm sure that they're not lying about the numbers, but they did.
I'm sure they're not.
Here's the thing, though. AMD gave reference specs. This is the size of cooler. This is the TDP. And this is the mounting pressure, all that. But when you go and do stuff like overclock the GPU, then you have to adjust for the TDP change. And they did. They made a huge 2.7 slot cooler. You can see it blown up here. And when you do that extra weight, it's like a pound heavier.
Yeah, and it's longer.
And it's longer and all that. And they didn't bother changing any of the knock-on specs that are based off of the initial calculations, like heatsink weight. I mean, come on, guys.
in my mind, this is not even a problem of the pressure. It's just the fact that the card is sagging, so it's separating
Yeah.
itself from the. So there is actually almost like no pressure there if there is place for the cooler for the radiator to kind of.
Do we know if
Lower
the
itself
back plate is even metal? Sometimes they use plastic.
Yeah, but plastic actually probably hurts.
Is it a plastic back plate?
I don't think so. There's no way ASUS would use a
Well,
actually,
they
this
have
is
the
ASUS.
Aura Sync lighting on the back
Is
plate.
this a
So
plastic?
do we
I
have
don't
any
think
information on
this is
whether it's?
plastic.
I would
No,
hope that
I'm
it
looking
isn't.
at the Amazon thing. This looks metal.
No, I have the
looks-
card in the computer, so I'm looking at it. It has a back plate that is metal.
Okay.
But the screw
Oh yeah, right.
is
You
not-
have one.
Yeah, I'm looking at it through the tinted glass.
Yeah.
But the screw is not mounted on the back plate.
Oh, it's just attached to the PCB, and then the back
As
plate
far
is
as I can
mounted
see, yeah.
individually.
Yeah, I think so. It's not mounted to the back plate.
So this GPU is taller, longer, wider, and perhaps even like a pound heavier according to like the Amazon shipping weights. And ASUS did not think that maybe they should have tested it to see if their reference specs would actually have worked on what is probably the biggest 5700 XT on the market.
Yeah.
They didn't think about that.
You don't need extra tightness on the screws. Come on.
I wonder, is it possible that they rushed the product to the market?
Oh, of course
when
they
did.
did.
It launch?
It
When did
most
launch?
likely was a
It
rush
launched
job.
almost immediately.
Did it?
I
'Cause
mean,
thought
is
that
this
they
a
were kind of
similar?
like 2 months late with it?
Yeah, is this a similar design to one of the other cards that they've used before? Like the
Oh, I have no idea.
heatsink?
Okay, sorry, what?
Did they rehash a previous heatsink design? Just kind of.
They might have rehashed
adjusted
the
the
Vega
screws?
64. I don't know. I looked at it. It looks similar, but I don't know if it's the same. Because the color is different. But that might only be because of RGB.
Well, I'm looking
They
at
might
an
have rehashed
exploded
Vega.
view on their website that shows what the
Look at the
actual
Vega
heatsink
64
looks like.
one.
Vega 64?
Yeah, it might be the same. If it's the same, and I thought it wasn't the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Okay. So they didn't reuse one, I think. But they still didn't test it. So actually, you know what? This design has never been tested then. They never test this design ever.
You would think that you would spend at least a day going over, oh, let's see what happens if I tighten this screw a little bit.
No, but it's AMD's fault because AMD didn't tell ASUS how to make a GPU. They've only been in this game for like a decade.
Well,
You
it's
can't
not that they
expect them
didn't
to
tell
know.
them how to make a GPU. They just didn't tell them that you need to tighten the screws more for a heavier heatsink. I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Maybe ASUS just doesn't know better.
Oh, man. No,
And
we got to give them some credit. I'm pretty sure they knew better, but they were probably under some tight timelines. I mean,
Yeah, it's possible
They-
that.
yeah, but they should have waited.
They
And
may
also
not have
they
even
screwed
have-
up their other. They screwed up the other GPU too.
yeah, they may not have gotten their actual GPUs from AMD for a little while either. There could have been some delay in the pipeline there as well.
What
I
if
mean-
they didn't prioritize it? What if they gave some B team the design of the AMD and they concentrate on the NVIDIA ones? What if
I
they
mean,
have this?
there
kind of,
there could be some conspiracy around that.
I don't think it's conspiracy. I think there was a pie chart that showed like who sells the most AMD GPUs. I think ASUS was on the bottom, or they were close to it.
Well,
'Cause
we
I
know
know
why
Sapphire, Sapphire, Power Color, and XFX were the top three. All the like Gigabyte, MSI, and ASUS were on the bottom.
now. Hmm.
So I don't think ASUS cares about AMD.
Hmm.
Oh, and one more thing, they changed the statement on their website. They changed like the actual words, and they also removed this graph, like showing the pressure. Do you have that graph, Dan?
I got it pulled up.
I mean, Kirk.
Yeah.
Why they call you Dan? I don't know why, but do you have it?
Yeah, I got it pulled up.
Yeah. So they removed that graph. I think they realized that it was wrong. Because let's say the pressure was too low. Again, you should have known that. You should have tested it. That this chart is an admittance that you tested it in January, not July.
Yeah. Which is why they
So-
said that their initial runs were loose and that they fixed it in January.
Half a year later.
I actually wonder if they
After
actually
6
tested
months of
the
denial.
card in.
I think they grabbed a GPU in the back and they were like, "Oh, it's sagging."
It was just hanging off their test unit. It's like, oh, that heatsink isn't supposed to wobble, is it?
They even have Hardware Unboxed has like they show how much it sags. It sags by like a good centimeter. It's pretty freaking crazy.
Oh, wow.
That's so much sag. 1 full centimeter. It might even do more. I don't know what the scale is on that video.
And if there was any play in the system like that, I would be concerned just
Whew.
all off the...
And this is the most expensive one. Okay. I think that's it for the Strix saga. I think the story's done.
Well, let's go and talk about Bethesda then.
Okay, so this is really about NVIDIA and GeForce Now, because we talked about in the last one, and we didn't write an article about this because this happened like right before the first podcast.
Yeah, and the GeForce Now sounded really good. It's like, oh, I can take any of my Steam games and just
not
play
any, but a lot of them.
Well, they would validated like 1,000 of them.
Yeah, somewhere around there, and now they have like 1,500, I think. But anyways, in the first podcast, we were like talking about how Blizzard pulled their games.
Mm-hmm.
Now Bethesda has pulled their games. Not all of them, but pretty much all of them. The only major one they did not pull, I think, was Wolfenstein Youngblood, which is the one with RTX.
Yeah.
So there's something going on here, I think. I don't know if it's Blizzard and Bethesda being Blizzard and Bethesda, or if NVIDIA did something bad.
I wonder if it might be something to do with the T's and C's.
What do you mean?
Maybe they have something with like the actual games that are on GeForce Now. I don't know. You never know with some of these backroom deals.
I just if there's a third company that does this, then I think NVIDIA must be doing something, because 3 times is not a coincidence.
Yeah. And you would think that they would want to have this kind of participation because, you know,
they're not losing any money.
Yeah, they would have more people that could play the
slice of the pie. And NVIDIA
that would be weird, because it's not like, because NVIDIA is only providing a platform to play the games on. They're not providing the games themselves. Yeah. You have to own these games on like Steam or GOG, Origin, or God forbid, Epic's Game Store.
If it runs.
but it's just.
But what I meant was that NVIDIA is obviously doing the GeForce Now to boost their sales. I mean, they're not doing it because they're greatest of their hearts, right? So they are promoting the service and encouraging people to buy NVIDIA cards. So what if these guys say, okay, so you're using our games to promote your sales? So pay us some.
Maybe.
You don't have to have a GeForce card to play on GeForce Now. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, you just have to have a device that can stream.
Yeah.
So it's like if the reason is we want more money, then that's just a crazy, because they wouldn't ask like Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft or Valve to take less of the cut because their games are on their platform. That's not how it works. That's backwards. They take a cut because their games are on the biggest platforms. Yeah,
and they would actually be cutting into their lower end GPU cells because of this platform as well. Because anyone that's, you know, going to spend $70, $100 on a GPU could just as easily pay for almost a year's worth of service on this and have a way better experience with a higher end GPU, basically.
Yeah, this GeForce Now is lowering the bar, the level that you need to access PC. It's $5 a month, or even free.
Anything that's not a 2060 is pretty much no longer viable at this point.
Yeah,
because you can just subscribe to this and always have a 2060 equivalent level experience.
Like to play PC, you at least need to spend like $200, like to have something like at least like that can play games.
Yeah. Or
Like,
you can get a 580.
You could spend several $100s to get a good gaming PC, or if you have good internet, you can just stream, and you can spend all those hundreds of dollars on video games. So I don't understand why they're pulling out if Nvidia isn't really doing anything wrong.
Man, I am very envy you now. So you're saying to me that in the States you can spend $200 for a gaming PC?
Not a good one, but you could work something up for like $200. You could buy like a used Dell Optiplex and like throw in a GPU in there,
or just a used system, and then throw in a motherboard and APU from AMD and have
like an
Oh yeah, that too.
I mean, there's people that are literally throwing PCs away for $50 or less, and they're, a 4th gen Intel or something like that. Garbage, but still, it's not.
It can game.
Yeah, it can game. You can put a $200 GPU in a 4th gen and actually have an experience. Not a great one.
Well, people aren't spending that
equipment.
much money for the GPU when they do that kind of stuff. They're spending maybe like $50, $100.
Yeah. But you can still get a modern APU, the 3000 series or something from AMD.
And those are also good.
And put it in a cheap sub $100 motherboard of last gen kind of stuff, and you can do a pretty good job.
Yeah, that's almost discrete level.
But yeah, we don't have like the huge VAT taxes and things like that here in the States.
Yeah, over here it's crazy. In Europe, because I'm from Europe here.
So who do we think is going to be the next one to pull out? EA?
EA, if it's something that NVIDIA is doing on the back end, then we got to look at the more revenue-driven companies. And, Activision was top on the list, of course. So EA is going to be next, if anything.
That was definitely the one I was just thinking of, just because of the kind of company. Because nobody likes Blizzard or Bethesda anymore. Nobody likes them.
Unless if NVIDIA is greasing palms in the opposite direction. Like if they're actually paying EA to stay in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's just the wildest thing. If NVIDIA has to pay them to stay on, it's a freaking platform.
Well, here's the thing is, what are they doing to prevent their games from being able to be ran on GeForce Now?
I don't think it's a thing about prevention. I just think it's the thing that
they're not going
if they don't know if it's going to work very well. I think they want to validate it so that people don't say bad things about GeForce Now. I think they would rather people not play the games than have a bad experience.
So do you think this is kind of like the FreeSync thing, where it's like, do you want to be G-Sync compatible or not, right?
Maybe.
Do you think they're maybe requiring a little bit of cash in order to be validated on this platform?
Oh, that's an interesting theory. And then they didn't pay up.
Yeah.
That's something I didn't think about. Yeah, I guess.
Because if they're like, our games will work just fine on this platform, but we're not going to bother about getting certified on that platform. So.
But I feel like NVIDIA would be overplaying their hand. I think they would be playing their hand too hard if they tried that. If that's the deal, then NVIDIA has not made a very smart move.
Well, it's what they did with G-Sync certified.
Yeah,
so I can full well see them just extending that platform like that.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the deal is with NVIDIA.
If there's somebody else that pulls out, we'll have another podcast about it.
Okay, so
we got
about
some Chinese,
Intel.
Japanese characters here. Chinese, probably.
This is Chinese.
Yeah.
This is Chinese. This is from a Hong Kong publication, X570. They leaked that really awesome. I think they leaked this. They've leaked several internal Intel documents. I think they leaked like that really like long list of like Intel releases from like Dell or something.
Oh.
Like all the way up until like 2020 or 2021. That was like early last year, but now they have this. They have a 10900, and it is there should be a picture of it compared to the 9900KS in terms of just like the physical size.
Yep.
I
got
don't
a
think they have a
taller
benchmark.
heat spreader.
Yeah, it's the same size more or less.
Yeah. Of course, being an
What's
engineering sample, it has the 2.5 gigahertz printed on the front rather than 3.6.
You can see on the bottom of the 10900, like there are like 2 clusters of whatever those things are. What do you call them? SMDs or something? Capacitors? Something like that. Anyways, there's 2 clusters instead of like one whole group. Mm-hmm. People have speculated that there's something going on there. I'm not too sure.
Glued on CPU.
Yeah, people have been speculating maybe there's like multiple dies in there. Maybe this is because of Rocket Lake and that will have multiple dies.
I mean, it would have to be like 2 6 cores that glued together then, and then a core disabled each to end up with 10. I mean,
I think
one side. Well, no,
I don't think it's
bus.
relevant. I don't think the shape of the capacitors are relevant.
Yeah.
That they're in 2 groups, I think that's just a design decision Intel made, and it doesn't really matter.
Wait, this is not 10 nanometers, is it?
No, this is 14.
14 plus.
This is 14 plus, I think.
There's at least 2 or 3 pluses on there,
yeah. They stopped counting the pluses, I think.
Yeah, they just call everything plus now, right?
Yeah,
probably so that they don't end up with 5 on the end and start looking silly.
Yeah.
They should do what NVIDIA did last year. Something super is coming. They should come with something else for the pluses.
They've already got a KS, so...
New 14 nanometers.
Yeah, 14 nanometers super.
And these slides, I don't know if they leaked these slides. I'm pretty sure these slides are leaked.
Yeah,
I don't know if they leaked
taken
them.
from the WCC, it looks like. Taken from
Whatever
WCC. It might be another site.
What, WCCF Tech, maybe?
It might be WCCF.
That might be what they're talking about. Anyways, these slides have been leaked.
The thing that
this happened a while ago.
I really laughed at was they have this estimated. Notice it's as estimated by SpecInt rate base 2006 for their multi-thread compute. It's 18% performance improvement versus Coffee Lake. However,
with 25 more cores.
Well, with 25% more compute because they added the 2 cores versus an 8.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my god.
I wondered whether this is because they couldn't increase the cache size or something.
No, it's the clock speed. They had to decrease the
2
clock
more
speed.
2 more cores, they probably have lower clock speed for sure.
Yeah. Because Jim said this was a while ago that they had to retape Comet Lake due to power regulation issues.
Yeah.
And nothing happened, and then we started hearing about like these like massive TDP targets for the 10900K. Like I think PL2 was like 275, and then Ian Kutcher said that the TDP or like the power consumption will be greater than 300 watts.
Hey, but don't worry, this is going to be an overclocker stream because
they're
going to be such a low clock speed to begin with that you just put some liquid nitrogen on it, it'll clock right up.
This is why Intel does overclocking better than AMD, because their stock just can't run very well, I guess.
Well, but you can start putting liquid nitrogen on it and really help it out. Or, some kind of aftermarket chiller that actually has active cooling.
You could do what my father did, and in the wintertime, you can hook up your computer to like your basement and have like a fan blow all the cold air up into it.
Yeah.
And during the summer, have the computer hooked up to the AC, like the central cooling.
I mean, that is a very funny topic when you're sitting here talking about heating your house with your compute. I mean, there's data centers that heat their buildings with their compute
but I'm doing
from the
that
data
as
center.
We speak right now. I mean,
it warms my room.
The cooling.
I got a Threadripper and my 3900X, and when I get them both chunking away on video encoding, it gets kind of warm in here, which is great because it's like
winter.
-2
Celsius outside.
Now, I do have a confession to make on the topic of heating rooms with computer parts. I did take the Vega 56 out of my PC because it crashed and I got really upset. And I put the 1080 Ti in there. And I know last podcast I said it was for testing only. Yeah, it's in my main PC.
You still tested
I'm sorry,
your
Jim.
main PC? Come on.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
I test with my main PC, and I bought all the components in it. Anytime you see a 3900X benchmark, that's from my main PC. So
yeah, there's not going to be any benchmarking done on this one. I have like in the background, it's always like a minimum of like 8 gigabytes of my RAM use. So many Chrome tabs.
All you need to do is just reboot the system.
Nope, I'm not doing that. I keep this thing running for days at a time.
Try weeks. Like it was almost. I was still on 1903 just yesterday. That's how long ago it's been since I rebooted it.
What's the current version?
1909.
Oh.
But
right, so,
I have a stable system, and so I'm happy. It's great. I'm running an NVIDIA GPU, AMD CPU on a pretty nice premium X370 motherboard still. So, and it's stable. I'm happy. It's good.
I'm getting like some like robot noises from.
Yeah,
I do the same.
Let's go ahead and move on to the
now.
next, the Hardware Unboxed tweet.
The final thing. Oh man,
this is going to be some fun discussion.
When is this podcast going to go up tomorrow?
We'll try getting it up as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay. So we are recording this as of right now. It is February 22nd, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and yesterday. Oh, it's been almost exactly 24 hours since Hardware Unboxed. I assume this is Steve. He made a tweet, and this is what it says. In the latest Tom Hardware review, in quotes, they go out of their way to dispel the belief that MSI X570 boards have hot VRMs by testing with the stock 65-watt 3700X, and then justify that by saying no one will ever upgrade to a 3900X or 3950X with a sub 200 large. And they link to the review. And this is... I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know if he's going to...
It wasn't Paul that wrote the articles, so that's probably why.
It was Thomas Soderstrom.
Yeah.
I don't know... When I wrote at Tom's, I don't know exactly what he did. I guess he does the motherboard reviews. At least some of them. And because I wrote at Tom's, Steve asked me to get in contact with Thomas, which I did. I have him on my LinkedIn. I messaged him. He messaged me back. I don't think he's ever going to talk to Steve about this. And I have a message. I have the message from him. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to. That's Steve's business doing that. I'm just the messenger, but I'm pretty sure when Steve reads this message, because I assume he's asleep right now, it's not gonna make him very happy.
I mean, the whole premise was that they tested with like a 65-watt TDP, the 3700X, and
the least stressful CPU.
Yeah, the lowest TDP of the 3000 series, right? And
yeah, I mean, like there's also the 3600. Which probably consumes less power, but it is still also 65-watt TDP, so...
I mean, they put here in the 4 that it was an adequate voltage regulator for the Ryzen 3000 range.
Yeah.
And good overclocking on a mid-budget 3700X. But they also tried to justify the VRMs that were lacking, to say the least, by saying... nobody's going to upgrade to the 3900X or the 3950X because it's a sub $200 motherboard. Well,
and that's like, what?
Some people will buy the cheap motherboard so that they can afford the extra $100 towards the CPU.
Right.
Yeah.
Just established before.
When I built my NAS, I put a cheap AB 350 motherboard in the stupid thing because it was $60, and I dropped it in there, put a 6-core first gen AMD CPU in there, and I'll be upgrading it when I upgrade my desktops. Like my 3900X may eventually end up in that motherboard because just upgrades.
Yeah.
Things trickle down. So
And
you can't say that nobody's going to stick a 3950X in a $200 motherboard, or sub 200 in this case.
yeah, and okay, so this board, do you have the timestamp for the Hardware Unboxed review?
For the
Yeah, show this graph. You gotta show this graph. So when they use the 3900X on the board that Tom's reviewed, it was over 20 Celsius hotter than the next hottest board. That's not a good VRM. And I'm sure these numbers are accurate. They're very good at testing.
So let's pull up the Hardware Unboxed here. So they're showing 106 Celsius on the backside. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, it's pretty high up there, even with nominal or even less watts than the ASUS TUF motherboard.
Yeah.
And let's see, you said there was one further in.
And when they
14?
overclocked it, it got even worse.
What timestamp was that at?
It's like 12:30. So you can see 118 Celsius.
Oh yeah.
Reported by the software, and I think they have like a thermal camera on the MOSFET, and that's 116, and 125 Celsius for the back of the PCB.
Yeah, and for anyone that wants some reference, when I did the Threadripper, the 3760X review, we're running 24 cores on this thing. I overclocked it to a 1.41 volt, just like this MSI board you see here, and had it running at like 4.2 all core, and it was running with MOSFETs at a whopping total of 52 Celsius. Now, granted, those are premium. Let me stress this: premium MOSFETs with a very good cooling system. But that's,
it's just your house is too cold.
Yeah, I just needed to open up the window and let the -2 Celsius come in, right?
But it is double the cores.
Double the cores. Well, this is the 3700X, so that's what, 8 core, right?
Oh, I'm talking about in the Hardware Unboxed review.
Oh,
they use the 3900X.
Oh yeah, I see that now. 39. So double the cores at 4.2 instead of 4.3, but at the same voltage for the CPU, obviously with a lot higher power draw though. And but a lot more MOSFETs. I'm pretty sure there's a whole lot better power and voltage regulation on this gigabyte board than they had on this MSI.
But even without your information, even without that testing, when you just look at the graph, it's just unacceptable.
Yeah, compared to any of the other boards.
Compared to competition.
I mean, you like you said,
still
you have
Legend
a premium card, but even compared to the other budget ones, I mean, it's
yeah. I mean, the Still Legend is
30% more,
right there in the same price bracket, really, if not slightly more expensive, because I think it's just over $200 versus under $200 for the Gaming Edge. But I mean, with it being that close, and with the temperatures being almost 30, 40 Celsius difference, that's unacceptable.
Yeah. So, but Tom's found that it was just fine. In fact, they said that it was a good thing that the VRM was just so good that they put it in the pro part of their rating.
Yeah, because it was, I don't.
So Steve is probably going to make a video about this.
I wonder if Steve is too close to those bushfires there. That's why when he tested the MSI, the numbers are off.
Yeah.
Their voltage regulation is 10 phase, which is an 8+2. So it's pretty premium for an X570 motherboard, you would think. And they're charging $160 for the board. So it's about $40 cheaper than the ASRock Still Legend. But I don't know. Based on those numbers, I'd still buy the Still Legend. It's like, come on.
Like that's getting a little bit too close to too hot, but that's good enough. I mean, you're getting lots of features out of it. I'd buy it. Anyways, so Steve has the reviewer's response. I won't say, but he won't like it. I'm sure he won't like it. And this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun to watch I don't know what's going to happen.
And I guess I can't be the only one that has cheaped out on a motherboard to get a slightly better CPU, right? I mean, who's going to buy a 6-core?
Who wants to buy a more
Yeah, who wants to buy a 6-core CPU when you can get the 8-core for $100 more by just slashing a $300 motherboard down to a $200 motherboard?
Yeah,
the board is the part where everybody skips out on, and for good reason. You don't really need that good of a motherboard. When you're buying like the Godlike, it doesn't do anything more than like the $300 whatever they have.
Well, you can
maybe
overclock
just overclocks a bit better.
but if you're,
I don't think it even overclocks better.
I would rather have 2 extra cores, 4 extra thread than try to overclock a 6-core. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You run into some stability issues in some fringe cases, or you run into power draw issues, things like that. And so cutting off an extra 2 SATA ports and 3 USB and downsizing to just 2 DGPU slots versus 3 or 4, those are all sacrifices that any one of us could easily justify to get those extra 2 cores.
And also think about in the future when these processors are going to be cheaper. And even like the next generation CPUs are also probably going to be cheaper. And you might be able to have 16 cores for $700, $600, even $500, or 12 cores for $400, $300. Who knows?
When the Zen 3, Zen 4 stuff comes out, you'll be able to get these 16-core 3950Xs for way cheaper. I mean, just look at how much a 2700X costs right now. I mean,
it's like
sub $200, isn't it?
Yeah, it's less than 200. I think let me check.
And that thing was selling at $320, $350, $400 even. I mean,
it launched at $330, and now it is $170.
Yeah. Oof. So we'll be able to pick up a 16 for $500. This is an Intel here that actually raises the price as they get older.
Yeah.
So you laugh, but that's what happens. You go and look at how much it costs to get like an 8700K, and it actually sometimes, it'll cost more because, they stop producing them, or maybe they're just doing them in low quantity now, but people still buy them thinking they're, an older CPU, let's get a cheaper deal.
Good wine, gets better with it.
I know what I have. Don't lowball me.
You trying to tell us something? You got something to get off your chest? A little bit of confession here?
Huh? What? I'm just making fun of people who are like, they're selling something for way more than it's worth on like Craigslist. And they're like, don't lowball me.
Yeah, this is a premium Intel CPU. It comes complete with hundreds of vulnerabilities. Every last one of them contributes to this resulting cost. Come on.
This is an Extreme Edition dual-core CPU. I know what I got.
Yeah, I purposely didn't patch any of them so that you would have optimal performance.
All right, well, I think that's it. We don't have anything else to talk about.
Well, thanks for joining us in today's discussion.
Thank you.
We'll have to get another one of these organized here in the next week or two. But thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. We're trying to hit a goal of 1,000 for this alternate channel so that we can get some more
features. Because we're locked out of some stuff, I think, aren't we?
Once we hit 1,000, we'll be able to get some of the extra features, maybe a little bit of monetization to help with the website and keep things running, keep the lights on, Yeah. And we also have to get view time, so if you don't want to watch the entire podcast series, just go hit the playlist and hit play and then walk away, whatever it takes, Not going to encourage throwing our numbers or anything like that, but we do appreciate you guys listening in, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.